Hi, I'm Laura Mize, pediatric speech-language pathologist, and welcome to the Christmas Therapy Guide from teachmetotalk.com and myei2.com. Using themes and changing your materials are important ways to keep therapy fresh and keep a child really wanting to participate with you and learn from you. At this time of year, it's so easy to incorporate new ideas into your therapy session. You might already have lots of these kinds of toys and materials at home, but if you don't, they can be purchased really inexpensively, and I'll tell you where I bought my things as we go along. The activities that I'm going to show you in this video are loosely organized by developmental level. That means the easier activities are at the beginning of the video, and then the complexity will advance as we go along. The same is true in your written therapy guide. So this means the more delayed a child is that you're working with, or the younger a child is, you'll want to start with activities toward the beginning of the video or the beginning of the written therapy guide. In all of the activities, we'll be targeting lots of different goals. First of all, social goals, then cognitive goals, then receptive and expressive language skills, and perhaps even some speech intelligibility skills. The written therapy guide will provide a really nice discussion of how to work social goals into every single play activity that we'll talk about today. But let's review those important points before we begin. Your primary social goal for every activity is that the child interacts with you, is that he stays with the activity. You have to make sure that you are included in every activity. Don't let the child take the toy or the material and leave you out. You have to make yourself a vital part of getting to play. That might mean that you'll withhold a piece of the activity until the next part begins, or that you are so fun that there's no way that the child can leave you out. The first kind of social game or social goal that we're going to target is with joint attention. Joint attention requires 3 points of focus: the child, the adult, and the activity or object that you're both attending to. If the child hyper-focuses on the object and leaves you out, that's not joint attention. You'll make sure that you want to give a child a reason to include you. That might mean that you make your face really, really animated. You're going to make your voice sound really, really fun. You're going to smile and laugh, and again, maybe even do some silly things to keep that child with you. If your affect is flat, then you're part of a child's social interaction problem. The next thing that you might do to make social skills easier for a child to achieve is to modify your environment. This means that you have to sit with your child and play together and not narrate what he's paying attention to from across the room. If a child is having a really hard time including you, you have to place yourself within the child's line of vision. Sometimes that means that you might even have to lie down on the floor on your stomach so that your face is right there with the toy. Sometimes that might mean that you put the toy on a low table and that you sit on the floor. So again, your face is right in the child's line of vision. You also want to make sure that you're using bigger gestures and movements to help a child attend to the toy that you're using and to you. You might tap the toy or move a toy to get a child to really look at what you're doing. You might want to point using larger gestures than you would with an adult. Gestures are also so important to helping a child understand what you're saying, so you'll want to use those to supplement what you're talking about. Just as I'm talking to you here, I can hardly not use my hands, and that's what we should be doing with children, especially those with language delays. So for example, if you're looking for something, you're not just going to say, "Where's the ball?" You'll be saying, "Where's the ball? Where'd it go?" And again, the more delayed a child is, the more important it is that you use gestures to help him understand the words you're using. Many times when it looks like a child doesn't like a toy or an activity, it's really that he doesn't understand how to play. You'll have to show this child over and over again how to play and what to do, especially if the toy or the concept that you're teaching is new. If a child is really struggling to attend and stay with you, you may have to begin with really simple activities that build attention and cognition, and those kinds of activities will actually be in the next video in this Christmas Therapy Guide series. Let's move on now to talking about specific play activities that you can use to target your cognitive and your language goals. Now, this first activity is designed to elicit a child's attention, to promote requesting and learning to ask for assistance. And again, this is where we start with so many of our children with communication delays. They don't even know that they should approach you or that they should ask you for help with something. So this is a super activity to target those skills. We can also establish some really simple verbal routines to target a child's language delays. These are wind-up toys. And again, I think wind-up toys are a great way to target these skills because the turns are really fast. Many years ago, I began to purchase wind-up toys at Christmas sales, and so I have quite a variety now. You can find them if you're just beginning to look for these at the dollar store, Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, or maybe even the grocery store in their holiday aisle. I put all of my toys in a bucket to really create some anticipation and some excitement. And again, I'm going to show you in this video series exactly what I would say and exactly how I would present these toys to a young child. Now, it may seem a little bit unnatural here. You may think, oh, Laura, you are really over the top. But I promise, if you will up your affect and ratchet it up a notch so that a child really gets excited about playing, that'll do so much to help him attend to you and want to stay with you. So this might be how I would start. I would say, ooh, look, my bucket. What's in the bucket? Let's see. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Should we open? Let's open. Let's open. And then we'll open the bucket. And again, it's really important that you say the same things in the same order almost every time that you play, because that teaches the child what words come next. And again, he learns what those words mean and he begins to attach meaning with that. So once we've opened the bucket and done that routine, we're going to start showing or letting him pick what toy he would get. Now, I have probably, I don't know if you can see inside my bucket, but I probably have 10 different things. I will never give a child all 10 things just like, here you go, go play. That leaves no room for you in that activity. So you're going to withhold them and just give them one at a time. So I might just decide what the child likes by holding a couple up and then letting him pick. We could give a choice, or if he's looking at one or the other or reaching for one or the other, that's what we'll go for first. So let's just say that we're going to use this car. And so what I might do with that is start again with my verbal routine and say, oh, look, oh, it's car. Are you ready? Oh, let's say it. Ready, set, oh, go. And then we're going to watch the car together. Now again, the child's naturally going to watch the toy, but if you add a vocalization and if you stay excited and really in the moment and in play, that ensures that the child is more likely to include you in this play routine. Now, it really does matter what you say with this. With any kind of vehicle, I might do something like ready, set, go, and of course I would do the sign and say the word, you know, for this one we did car. If I had this Santa, I'm going to say something like walk, 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 if that's what the Santa does. Or I might say, you know, ho, 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 or go Santa, go, 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 go. And again, you want to be really, really repetitive and really, really simple so that a child may begin to say the words and certainly will link meaning to the words that you're using. You can see the other ideas that I have for the rest of my toys in the written therapy guide, but I just wanted to give you some ideas. These are some really cool light-up toys that I just found this year at Walmart, and I hope they work. You bounce them on the ground, and then they begin to light up. And again, for a child who's really interested in visual stimulation, this would be a super way to attract his attention to you. I most of the time use these toys when I'm about to lose the child's attention, meaning that he's about to walk away from me. That's when I would bring these kinds of things out. Now, once the toy has stopped, the child will probably want it or reach for it. At this point, I usually grab it and say something like, I got it, or, oh, mine. So again, I'm keeping myself a necessary part of that interaction. If you're working on a sign for a request, a general sign like more or a sign like please, now is a great time to model and prompt that. Remember, you're going to give a child that model 3 to 5 times so that he can hear what you want him to say, and again, maybe see your sign, and then what do you do if he still doesn't do it? Well, you help him do it, and then you pick back up with your same routine and do the same things over and over and over again. Pay really close attention to the words that you're using and stick to your same verbal routine so that a child knows what to expect and becomes really familiar with the play routine. And so then there's that nice back and forth so that you're playing together. Now again, some kids at some point, or most kids in reality, are going to try to grab the toy to operate it themselves. That tells you something very important about a child's cognitive skills. It tells you that he or she's mastering cause and effect. They know they need to get the toy, and they know they're going to have to wind it up first so that it begins to operate and activate. If a child is not doing that, what can you do to promote that requesting and promote that wanting to use you for assistance? You should really make your body look like you expect them to include you and ask for your help. So that means you're probably leaning forward. You're making your face look, that expectant wait, like it's your turn to talk. You may even model help, want help, and use your sign there if you are targeting that sign too. If a child doesn't give you the toy and doesn't want your help in winding it up, because again, he's probably not going to be able to do that on his own, what do you do? How do you facilitate that? Well, I just simply start by sticking my open hand out as a gesture for give it to me. If he doesn't really do that and doesn't read my gesture, I'll say, give it to me. I'll help you. Want help? Need more? Want help? If he still doesn't do it, use your open hand to grab his hand with the toy, place it in your hand, and again, keep going with your play routine. You don't really want to interrupt the flow and again the fast pace of the next turn, because that's what keeps the child with you, but you still need to give him lots of opportunities to learn how to request and learn how to ask you for assistance. There are so many other goals that you can use with wind-up toys and light-up toys, and so I hope that you'll read your written guide and look at that and get some additional ideas. The next activity I'm going to show you is using a stuffed or a plush Santa toy like the one that I have here, and I love this kind of toy because we can target lots of receptive and expressive language goals with this kind of activity. You'll need to gather some accessories or some objects from your daily routines, and as you can see, I have raided the baby doll bag for this kind of activity. First of all, you'll want to start by introducing your character. A game of hiding or playing peekaboo is the way that I like to do this because it really establishes the character's name and it gives the child an opportunity to practice calling in addition to that. So you can use your cute $1 bucket that you got from the Dollar Tree and you can put the child inside and hide in. And we will, again, if you did some knocking with maybe your wind-up toys, if you used that previous idea already, you can start with that one. Or you can just simply start by, calling Santa. I usually, for children who are late talkers or nonverbal, don't even say Santa, I say ho-ho. And so for a brand new talker, that's the name that I would use. So I would probably start with something like, where's ho-ho? Where'd ho-ho go? Ho-ho! Ho-ho! Help me call him. You say it. Do it. Do it. Ho! Ho-ho! Where are you? Boo! And again, you've created that anticipation, you've created that excitement, and you've really modeled a gesture which indicates that you're going to call. You've also simplified a harder name like Santa with something to the child, something that a child might be able to say, like ho ho. Next, what you're going to do, and again, if you don't have a bucket, do it with a blanket. Play peekaboo that way. And if a child has never played peekaboo with another object, this is a great way to expand that activity and that game, that social routine that he or she already knows. So after you've done that, you'll want to begin to teach some other actions and again, establish some really simple verbal routines. I start with things like kiss and pat and tickle. And again, you're not just barking out orders. You can't just say, kiss Santa, tickle Santa, pat Santa. You know, you've got to be up, you've got to be into it, you've got to be really playful. So you're going to model what you want the child to do. So you're saying, ooh, let's kiss Santa. Are you ready? So you're making it big, you're making it fun, you're giving a child a reason to imitate you. And again, you can look in your written therapy guide for some other ideas with that. Now next, you're going to use some of the objects that you previously gathered. And so for things like eating and drinking, here's how I would do it. I would say, oh, Santa's thirsty, he needs a drink. Where's this drink? Let's get a drink. Here, look. So I've given a child several vocal play utterances that he can imitate with me. I'm not making it about him saying cup or him requesting drink. I'm giving him things that he can really, really imitate. And again, things that are really, really fun. You're going to do the next thing with eating and then proceed to all of your familiar actions. And these are things you've probably used with dolls in the past. If you've never done that with a child, this is a super holiday-related activity to get you going. I almost always talk about sleeping, and the routine, the verbal routine that I teach when we're working on sleeping is I always have the character lie down, and then we say, you know, oh, he's gonna go night-night. Tell him, shh, help me pat, 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 pat. Oh, you do it, you pat, 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 pat. Oh, now it's time to wake up. Are you ready? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, wake up, Santa! And again, whether we play with baby dolls or we might introduce a reindeer or a snowman or another character, whatever we do, we play the same routine in the same way every single time. Now, after you've established the play routines, this is when you're going to really start to be able to judge how much a child understands. So you'll start to say, oh, Santa's thirsty. You give him a drink. What does he need to drink? And you let the child pick and show you and demonstrate that he understands. But it takes a lot of modeling to get a child there. It takes a lot of repetition with playing together. And so again, you always want to be sure that you're teaching before you're testing. So make sure that you do a good amount of playing together before you would really start to give a lot of commands and expect a child to follow you through that. All right, other things that you might target during these kinds of play routines are working on verbs, so you can have Santa walk or run or jump or fall. You can also do some work with prepositions, and you can use the bucket that we've talked about. You might also get a box that you would put a present in to use. And even at this level, we want to be really, really sure that you are keeping it fun and that you're keeping it play-based. So you're going to say, you know, let's put Santa in. Show me, you do it. Put Santa in the bucket. He goes in. You're not just barking out that command and expecting the child to be able to do that on his or her own. Let me teach you one more cute routine that I do with this, and it's a song to teach learning how to ask questions. It's the Where Oh Where song. And this is exactly how I would do it with a child. Once he's put it in, I would say, oh, Santa's hiding. He's hiding. Where'd Santa go? Where'd he go? Let's sing it. Let's sing. Where, oh, where is Santa? Where, oh, where is Santa? Where, oh, where is Santa? Where can Santa be? And again, what I'm working on there is having the child stay with me, having him imitate that gesture and participate with the whole little play routine there. All right, when you're putting Santa away, here's another cute song that I want to teach you, and it's the Bye Bye song. And again, once you've introduced this with Santa, you can use it with lots of different materials throughout your play. So I sing, bye bye Santa, bye bye Santa, bye bye Santa, it's time to say bye bye. And again, it's a great way to target waving with children who don't yet have that gesture. You can blow kisses, you can do other things too that might make that more part of the fun. If a child is further along than that and we're really ready for receptive language practice, we can do some more things with cleaning up. You know, I can say clean up the cup or clean up the spoon. And again, we want to be sure that we're taking advantage of those, of that cleanup time to target our receptive language goals. I've also talked to you about incorporating other characters, and this is a fun thing to do for children who are further along, so that you're talking about, you know, the reindeer needs a drink versus Santa needs a drink, or the reindeer is dirty, let's watch the reindeer. Ooh, Santa is thirsty, Santa needs a drink. So you're bumping up that level of complexity by having more than one object and more than one action for the child to use. Now remember, after Christmas time, to transition these same concepts to other kinds of toys. That's called generalizing, and we want to be sure that a child is able to take the new words that he's learned and continue to use those throughout his day. So do this in your therapy sessions, and then make some suggestions to moms and dads and assign that as homework for them so that the child's able to learn to generalize. The next activity I want to talk to you about is this darling Christmas tree that I purchased last year from One Step Ahead. I absolutely love it, and it's one of my favorites for targeting both receptive and expressive language. I like to use this toy and save it for when a child is just beginning to understand a variety of words, or when he's just beginning to be able to imitate a variety of words. And I'm going to show you exactly what I would say and exactly how I would use it with a 2-year-old. I would make a really big deal about introducing it and say something like, oh, what's in the box? What is it? Can we open? Let's open. Oh, look, a tree, a Christmas tree. Wow, goes right here. And again, I think if you do a really nice job introducing the activity, you're really going to want to hook a child's interest and get him to want to play. Now, this toy comes with lots of different pieces that you can see here. And for most children, I would only bring out a few pieces at a time. And again, this really helps you target receptive language. So I might set a couple out and say, oh, we have to find something. Oh, help me, let's look. Let's find the little bird. Where's bird? And again, give a child a choice there. If a kid is not, if a kid is not ready for this kind of activity, I'm just going to do lots of teaching and lots of labeling and lots of helping him understand what these words are before I would rush to ask him to either follow directions with it or say the word himself. We would spend a fair amount of time just playing with it and letting him become familiar with the activity. And so for those kinds of kids, this is how I would do it. I would introduce one thing at a time, and I would say, oh, look, it's a bear. Look, bear. It's bear. Let's stick it on. Help me. You put it on the tree. And then you can target other words like push and pull, and again, work in your action words there. If a child is further along and I think that he's ready to begin to pick objects out of a few sets, I would say, you know, where's the star? And really not have him look from the 20 things, but have 3 or 4 little things right here so that he could pick it out from there. And we're going to make it really play-based and still keep it really, really fun so that we're not just barking out orders, you know, find the star, find the snowman, find the angel. But at the same time, we are still targeting our receptive language goals and are being really, really productive. Now, the way that I would target expressive language with new talkers who are just learning how to imitate words is not just to hold up an item and say, what's that? Tell me. What's that? What's that? What is this? You say it. Tell me. You know, that never works. with toddlers with communication delays. What I would do in this situation is really give them a choice. Do you want star or house? Now, if they're just learning to imitate, I would make the word last, or give the choice last for the word that they are more likely to say. If they're not imitating well enough to be able to say either of these words, I would just stick to learning the sign or giving them a general word like more or please, or even the sign for that, so that they were able to achieve some success, and then they get to put the item on the tree. You can also, again, target those new verbs like we talked about with push and pull. This is also a great kind of toy to work in your intelligibility goals. If a child is working on bilabials, that would mean a P or B or an M. If you're not a speech pathologist, you could come up with some mass practice activities so that you're having him say, you know, pull bear, pull star, push house, push duck, or put horn on, so that you're really coming up with a pretty repetitive way for him to practice that target sound, but you've still kept it play-based and still kept it developmentally appropriate. Now, when you're finished decorating the tree and all of your things are on here, don't forget your receptive language practice. For children who are at the one-step command level, you'll say, you know, get the horn and put it in the box. For children who are ready to bump it up a little bit, maybe they are working on two-step commands, you would tell them which two items to get. So you would say, get the house and the star, and have them put it in. For children who are really understanding language and you need to challenge them even more, you might say something like, make the snowman kiss the duck, and then put it in the box. So again, you are bumping it up just a little bit, but still keeping them with you and still keeping it pretty fun. So love this toy, certainly worth your $30. The next idea I'm going to share with you is making a sensory box with Christmas-related materials. Now, there are tons of goals that you can target with a child using sensory boxes, and those are listed in your written therapy guide. Before we begin, let's talk about when sensory boxes won't work for a child. If a child is still mouthing lots of items, then this is not a great idea or an activity for you to use with that child, because you're going to be more concerned with, will he swallow the rice? Can I get it out of his mouth? So don't use this activity with that kind of child. If a child is more interested in throwing the rice or in dumping it or in doing anything disruptive with what you're using, that's also not a good idea for you to use as a therapy activity. Anytime that you as an adult become more focused on managing behavior than on teaching new concepts or teaching new words, then you should move on to a new activity. For all other children, this is a great way to target language and cognition. And for everybody, no matter where they are developmentally, you'll need some basic supplies to get started. First of all, you'll need a container for holding your items. I love plastic Rubbermaid containers with lids. It's easy to get everything in there, and it's also easy to contain it with less mess than if you had an open container. Secondly, you'll need some kind of filler material. Now, I'm using rice for Christmas, and I'm leaving it white, but if you are really, really crafty, then you can Google a recipe for dyeing the rice red or green to really make it more holiday themed. What you're working on with the child will really determine the items that you'll use to fill your sensory box. And we'll talk about that as we go. And again, this is based on what your goals are and where a child is developmentally. Now, all the items that I'm going to show you today were really, really cheap, and I purchased them at places like Dollar Tree and at Walmart. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a really great box. Let's first talk about using a sensory box with a child who is busy. That means he has decreased attention and participation. He may not want to stay with you for very long, no matter what kind of activity that you introduce. For this kind of child, just sitting with you as you do some things together is success. And again, I've seen this kind of activity be really calming and really regulating for those kinds of children. Usually this means that you're going to pick materials that are really visually enticing and stimulating, so things that are bright and shiny. So I've gathered some things that I'd like to show you. I love this garland from mini Christmas trees. So Again, they might have smaller beads. You could use a larger strand of beads if you wanted to from longer garland, but I really like the mini size. You could pick garland like this, and again, the idea is you're going to hide it in your rice and leave just a little bit sticking out so that it really creates some interest there and makes a child want to stay with you, and then pull the whole thing out together. And so again, that would be a ton of fun. You could also do some following really simple directions like shake, 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 shake when you want to get the rice off the garland. Other things that you might use would be textured balls. I found these at the Dollar Tree, and again, you can't beat 4 balls for $1 there. I also found some really sparkly Christmas-related items. I think these were called table filler, and again, I've got a snowflake here and a Christmas tree and a Christmas stocking, and so you'll just hide those in the rice, and then as you find those, you'll talk about them. Now, you may not want to label garland or ornament with a child like this because those words are too complex. You'll want to stick with exclamatory words to direct the child's attention, like wow or whee as you're pulling the garland out. Remember, less may be more with these kinds of kids too, so you may just want to stick to rice, a couple of the things that I've talked about, and then get yourself some tools to use. By tools, I mean a spoon or a plastic shovel or something for the child to use to dig. Another reason that this kind of activity is so great to target language is that you can do some really nice verbal routines. And by that, I mean that you'll say the same thing as you play, and that as you entice a child to play with you over and over again so that a child begins to anticipate your words. So you might say something like dig, 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 pour, and you would say that over and over and over. Another goal that you can target with this kind of child using these kinds of materials is getting him to imitate a motor action. So just that he would dig the rice like you and then pour it out of the spoon may be a great start for some children, and this kind of material will elicit this goal better than any other material that you could use. Okay, for children who are a little further along with receptive language, you can change your materials a little bit, and let me show you the things that I've gathered for that. This will be when you really target familiar objects and familiar words that they've already heard before. Things like flower. Now again, as an adult, you might say poinsettia or poinsettia when you see this, but for our little guys, we're just going to stick with what the common word would be. So we've got a flower here, candy, and we're not going with ornament, we're going to say ball. You might even introduce some characters that would be associated with the holidays, like snowman and like Santa. And again, your goal here is to really teach them to understand words. So for this kind of child, I wouldn't have the materials already hidden. I would hide them together, and I would do a whole lot of labeling and really teaching what the words are first. And then after we've hidden all the objects, I would say something like, ooh, let's find that flower. Where's the flower? And we would look for that together. Now, if he finds the wrong item, that's okay. You can just say, you know, oh, that's not it. Where'd it go? And of course, you're going to label the item that you found too. So lots of language opportunities with this kind of task for receptive language. Now let's move on to expressive language. For these kinds of kids, you're going to pay attention again to finding things that they might actually be able to say. So instead of nutcracker, you're going to want to go with something simpler like man. Bell would be another good target. Duck would be a great word for you to use. And again, you're going to pay attention to how easy the word would be to say. Now, you can't really, even at this level, have a lot of things hidden in there. And as a child finds it, start to say, what's that? Tell me what it is. What's that? What's that? What's that? When you've never really heard a child say the word in another context. So you're still going to want to do lots of labeling and lots of teaching so that you'll hear a child imitate the word first before you would ever expect him to be able to use the word spontaneously. Again, you may really look at simplifying even a word like Santa. A child might have more of a chance or more of a shot at being able to say ho-ho than Santa. So think about reducing the complexity of the target words that you're using even when a child is at this level. All right, I hope I've given you some new ideas for incorporating sensory boxes into your therapy sessions. And for more specific goals and strategies, take a look at the written therapy guide. Now let's move on and talk about some cognitive activities that you can do with toddlers and young preschoolers. For some children, these are the breaks between more intense language activities. Some children will also need to target these kinds of activities as a formal goal in addition to their language goals. If you're a preschool teacher, a developmental interventionist, or a special instructor in birth to 3 programs, I'm sure you're already working on some of these activities, but let me help you make it a little more creative and a little more related to our Christmas theme. Let's begin with some simple matching and sorting activities. Now, matching is a really important cognitive skill. Almost every academic skill that a child will learn, whether it's naming colors or letters or numbers, has at its foundation the ability to visually match. Now, it's not developmentally appropriate to work on teaching colors, letters, numbers to toddlers, especially toddlers with language delays, but you can work on the foundational skills for that, and again, that would be learning to match and sort. Now, the first kind of matching that a child learns is matching by object. When I'm first trying to teach this to a child, I try to keep it really simple and keep everything the same color, the same size. Everything needs to be the same. And if a child is just beginning to match and sort, you'll also need to use a set size that's pretty limited. So let me show you what I've come up with for this Christmas idea. I've gotten these containers. You'll see there's a stocking, a Christmas tree, and a snowflake. And then I found table scatter, which is listed on the package at Dollar Tree, and they match the containers almost perfectly. So this is how I introduce it, and this is exactly what I say when I play with toddlers using this kind of activity. I'll take several of the same object and say, look, stocking, 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 and then we'll move on to tree. Tree, you get the idea, and I'm saying the name of the object as I'm putting it in the container that it matches. Now, if you don't have the containers, don't worry about that. You can just do the same thing by making piles of your objects on the table or on the floor wherever you are working. But again, you want to keep it really, really simple. If matching is a new skill, now don't expect a child to be able to say the name just yet. You might try a word like here, or if you were using your containers, you could try a word like in, so that you are not requiring the child to say a word that he or she may not be able to say just yet. You're going to focus on learning how to match. Now let's talk about how we could bump this up for a child who is a little more advanced cognitively, and they already really get how to match and sort. For this kind of activity, and for almost everything, I try to put all of the things that I'll use in really cute containers. Now that makes it even more exciting for a child. Again, it builds that anticipation, and we can work on our beginning routines for just starting the activity. I always like to work on the words open, or again, some kind of requesting word like more or please, and you can certainly pair the signs with that. You can also do, again, some actions with your container. You know, when you're working on open, you could also work on close, or even do your cute routines like knocking so that you can open. Now inside you'll see that I have lots of different objects to match. And I like to do this kind of activity with a muffin pan, because the openings are already right there, and it just makes it a little more fun and a little more contained, and the child, again, learns how to match or put things in a pile. But if you don't have that available, you can still do it on the table. But again, this is really my preference. So your cognitive goal here really is learning how to match and sort. But this is exactly how I would work on it. I would take one item at a time and really label it, and then make a pretty big deal about putting it in the pan and say something like this, like, ooh, bear. Where's bear go? Where do we put bear? And let the kid tell you either with a gesture or saying a word like here or something like that, and then I'm going to place it in. And I'll do that for all of my items. So I have bear, I have snowman, ball, and again, I'm labeling each new thing so the child is hearing the word first and isn't expected just to be able to name that spontaneously. Now, I like to take turns in a game like this with a child, especially after we already have everything in its own little hole, because that really teaches reciprocity, and it also makes it go a little bit faster. So you be sure that you're taking a turn and you're saying exactly what you want the child to say. So you would say something like, I'll get bow. There's bow. Bow in. And then you'll tell the child, you take a turn. Now, if a child seems a little bit bored or is not into it as much as you would like for him to be, make it a little more fun. You can make a mistake. You could call this, you could say, this is Santa. And of course it's not Santa, it's a snowman. Hopefully the child will correct you or will in some way let you know that he's tuned in and that you've made a mistake, or you can make a mistake with where you're going to put it and put it in the wrong hole here. And again, kids think this is so funny, and they really, really will stay with you a little bit more, and they almost like catching you make a mistake. Now, sometimes children will then start to make a mistake because they think that's funny, and that's okay too. That tells you that they're getting the humor and lets you know that they're bumping up cognitively as well. All right, now let's move on and talk about matching specifically by color. So many educators and parents get stuck on helping a child learn how to name colors. And let me just start by saying naming colors or using that as an expressive language task comes well after several other things that have to happen first. The first way that a child learns colors is actually by matching. So I've gotten some really cute things that I want to show you for Christmas. I bought these darling present boxes that are solid colors. And again, I got them at Dollar Tree, so they are $1. So really cheap activity, and I bought them in several colors. And then I looked for several things that I could use to match. And I found some cute little present boxes. And again, I think these are just darling and a cute way to work on matching colors. And so look for those. I also found these tiny bows, but if you can't find a smaller bow, go ahead and go with some larger ones. And again, we're working on matching by color, so you want to keep the colors pretty consistent. And I think it's really cool when you're working on matching by color to mix up what you're going to be matching. So I think it's perfectly okay for you to match both the bows and the boxes. For a child who's done this before now, of course, if matching is still pretty new for a child, you would never use 5 boxes. You would only use 1 or 2 and then work a child into being able to use a larger set with that. You could also target size with this kind of activity. So with your bows, you could work on sorting the little bows versus the big bows, and you could do the same thing again with your boxes if you've bought your smaller boxes with your bigger boxes. Now this is a bit of a challenge for a child and a big cognitive leap because they're not matching by color anymore. They're thinking about objects in a new way. And again, what a great cognitive leap for a toddler to make. I also like to use these kinds of activities for targeting intelligibility goals too. There's a list of potential target words in your written therapy summary, so take a look at that. If you have a kid who's working on bilabials, and again, if you're not a speech pathologist, that would be sounds made with your lips, B's, P's, and M's. And this is a super way to target that since you've got a bow, you've got a box, you could do big. And again, a really functional way to work your speech intelligibility goals into your therapy activity. So I hope that I've given you some new ideas for matching and for sorting. I've collected these kinds of materials for years, which makes them really, really cost effective. But if you're just getting started building your inventory, this is a nice, cheap way to add holiday-related activities to your therapy materials. And I hope you have good luck with it too. The last activity that I'm going to be showing you in this series is the Fisher-Price Christmas Train set. Now you can begin with the matching activity that we've just talked about and then transition this to a great play-based routine. About 10 years ago, I bought this entire set and I've played with them every year since then, so I've gotten my money back many times over. If you're a therapist, that's why buying a few quality toys every year and then rotating them in and out of your inventory will just be the very best thing that you can do to give yourself some good tools in your practice. Now, I've taken pictures of many of these individual toys and then I use them with the matching game. And again, we've talked about why visual matching is so important and how it's a foundational cognitive skill. If you have a child who's using pictures to communicate with a system like PECS, and if they're beyond that very first phase with requesting, then this would be a good way to transition using pictures into a play-based activity. Now, what I do when I work on this kind of activity is set out a few objects, and then I hold the picture and I say, ooh, look, what's that? What's that? That's Santa. You find Santa. And then let them pick the toy. Children are usually more captivated by picking the toy rather than picking the picture. And you've accomplished the same skill. And that's just another tip that I've found works to help children really want to do what you have asked them to do. And so again, I would, with this kind of material, I would probably save the train picture for last, because once the kid gets the train, all he's going to want to do is play. For a child who already knows how to play, you're not going, and who again has established play skills that you've seen with other toys, you are not going to have to teach them exactly what to do. But for some children on our caseloads, teaching them how to play is a therapy goal that we really have to incorporate even into our language sessions. So you'll have to show a child exactly what you want them to do. And again, I'm going to model this for you, and I want you to be aware that I'm modeling everything from how much repetition I use to simplified language to even the tone of my voice and my gesture. So pay attention to all of that. And again, it might seem a little bit unnatural because there's no kid here, but I want you to see how to do it. The key words that you can use with this play routine are written in your therapy guide, so I want you to take a look at that as well. So here are some of the play routines that I use when I'm playing with my Fisher-Price Christmas train. First, just with teaching Santa, I might say, oh, look, who's that? It's Santa. What does Santa say? What does Santa say? Santa says, ho, 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 ho. And again, you want to be really animated and really repetitive so that you're saying Santa and ho, ho, ho over and over again so that a child really, one, begins to connect the word Santa with this character, and two, so that he's more likely to imitate something. And by providing ho, 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 that vocalization, you're giving him something a little easier to imitate. Now, this play set is really cool because there are lots of different things you can do. You can work on verbs with hooking, and how I might do that is, talk about the choo-choo, and I would say something like, wow, see? It's my choo-choo. Look, choo-choo. What's choo-choo say? Choo-choo says, woo, 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 woo. You do it. Show me. Woo, woo. And again, I might reach over and help the child physically sign choo-choo, and I'm modeling woo, woo about 100 times per activity so that I'll start perhaps to hear a child say that too. So again, when you're teaching your action words, you can be sure that you are saying things like, oh look, it's broken, we have to fix it, come fix it, let's hook, help me, let's hook, Yay! I did it! And so again, you're providing that constant model of what a child would start to say when he begins to imitate. For reindeer, I always do walk, 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 walk. Ooh, ooh. Reindeer wants in. We have to open. Tell me open. Help me open. Let's open. Oh, there goes reindeer. Up, 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 up. Woo! He's hungry. What will he do? He's hungry. Let's make him eat. Show me. Show me eat. Reindeer eats. Oh, look, look, there's some water. See that water? He wants to drink. Oh, help me, help me. And again, you're modeling all of those great play sounds and great early vocalizations that you want a child to be able to do with you. There's another little part here where there's the space for Mrs. Claus to bake cookies. I never call her Mrs. Claus. I call her Mama or Mama Ho-Ho if we've established that Santa is Ho-Ho. And again, that's because it makes it easier for a child to say, and this would give us another context to practice the sign cookie and practice the word eat. And so again, one thing that you can be sure that you're doing, even with a Christmas themed play routine like this, is use signs and use words that you've pulled from your other play routines and from your other contexts, because again, that really helps with generalization. If this is the first time that a child is really using a sign or a word like that, then it's your job to get it into other contexts so that you can really, really help a child generalize language and play skills. All right, that's the end of this Christmas video series. There are several other ideas and other goals in your written therapy guide for using the Christmas train. I hope that this video, along with all the other ones that you've seen, have really helped spice up your therapy sessions for the month of December. And from us here at teachmetotalk.com and myei2.com, Merry Christmas.